Good morning.
Good morning.
In the second lesson, Peter writes to the church and says, "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. You almost don't need a sermon on that. You know, if we just sat here and just like rolled those words over in our head over and over again, I feel like we could use that collectively as a people. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. I will give you a sermon though. So, some of you will know that I have anxiety. I have the kind of anxiety that doesn't need anything going on in order for me to feel it. My happy place is sitting in a cafe, drinking a cappuccino, looking out at the ocean. I can be sitting there in my happy place and have a panic attack. There's nothing going on. I'm perfectly fine, nothing going on in my head, but my brain's just all of a sudden danger, danger, and I have a panic attack. I also have, the normal stresses and anxieties that we all have from family and work and society, et cetera, et cetera. My tell is I sigh a lot. And I'll sigh several times, and Karen will go to me, "Okay, Rick, what's wrong?" And I'll go, "Nothing." And she'll go, "Well, you just sighed 15 times in a minute, so I think something is wrong." About 10, 12 years ago, I was at the doctor just for my normal annual physical checkup. And it came to that point in the checkup where the doctor was like, "Is there anything else you want to tell me, anything that's going on?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm experiencing this anxiety, some panic attacks, blah, blah, blah." And she goes, "I promise you this is true." And this is what she said to me, word for word. She said, "Have you tried prayer and meditation?" No, I'm not into that stuff. But what do we do with the stresses and anxieties and worries that we all have? What does cast your anxieties on God mean? In some ways, if you just read it on the surface, it could kind of just be like a nice platitude. Oh, just cast that on God. Oh, have you tried not worrying, right? Have you tried just not thinking about this stuff? Never thought of that, right? But I don't think that's what Peter is after. I do not think that this is just a nice, sweet platitude to get you through the day. I think he means something deeper than that. First of all, he says, cast your anxieties on God. He doesn't say, if you happen to have anxieties, on the off chance that you're worrying about something, then you can do this. He assumes that we are going to have anxieties. Cast your anxieties, which you already have, and which every one of us have, on God. One of the things when I see people, particularly in the office, when they come in when they want to talk about something, people will come in with a stressor, and then I'll see them also stressing about being stressed. They're worried about something, and they feel like they shouldn't be worrying about it for whatever reason. And it almost like it's some kind of personal failure on their part that they're worried about this thing. Remember Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. He's about to be arrested. Tomorrow he will die. He knows all this is happening. He is not sitting there, the perfect example of peace and serenity. He's deeply grieved and distressed. He is so stressed that the gospel authors say that he is sweating like great drops of blood. He's stressed out. In one of my favorite passages from the New Testament, late in Paul's second letter to the Corinthians, he writes this. He says, "I am talking like a madman. I am one with far greater labors, far more imprisonments, with countless floggings, and often near death. 5 times I have received the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I received a stoning. 3 times I was shipwrecked. For a night and a day I was adrift at sea, on frequent journeys, in danger from rivers, danger from bandits, danger from my own people, danger from Gentiles, danger in the city, danger in the wilderness, danger at the sea, danger from false brothers and sisters, in toil and hardship, through many a sleepless night, hungry and thirsty, often without food, cold and naked. And besides other things, I am under daily pressure because of my anxiety for the churches." Like, I've been beaten with rods and shipwrecked, and I have all you guys to worry about. If there was ever anyone who needed a vacation, it was Paul right here. If St. Paul and Jesus can experience anxiety and stress, do you think perhaps it is not a personal failing if we do too? If they can feel that, then so can we. It is okay. It is not a failing on our part. And in fact, it is a normal part of human life. If you are going through stress and anxiety, you are not alone. If we took the time to turn this into a big therapy session, and we just went around the room to talk about what was going on in our life and what stresses and anxieties we have, I'm pretty sure there's not anyone who would be like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good, right? Every one of us has something going on in our lives. We are not alone. Part of what I think casting your anxieties on God means, part of it, is there are some things that we do not have control over. You know the old Alcoholics Anonymous prayer, the serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There are things that we have absolutely no control over whatsoever. In fact, there's a lot of things in life that we have absolutely no control over whatsoever. We like to think we have more control, particularly over other people, than we actually do. We don't have control over other people. We cannot control how they're going to act. We cannot control how they're going to react. And yet we can sometimes spend a lot of energy worrying about these things that we can't do anything about. Part of what I think Peter is saying here about casting your anxieties is taking those things that aren't on your plate or aren't meant to be on your plate and taking them off your plate. If we can't do anything about them, then we hand them off to the one who can. There's great power in those words, the wisdom to know the difference between the things we can control and the things we can't. The last thing is we don't have to carry our burdens alone. As I just said a moment ago, we all have them. There is no one in this room who doesn't have like one little thing that they are worried about. Towards the end of the lesson from 1 Peter, he says, "For you know that your brothers and sisters in all the world are undergoing the same kinds of suffering." I mean, part of the thing with anxiety, worry, stress, and all the other stuff that goes with that can be very isolating. You can feel like you are alone. We can feel like we're the only one who would ever possibly feel this or think this. We're the only ones that's worried about this. And we aren't alone. At the very beginning of this lesson, Peter is talking about Jesus, who also came to suffer. We have a God who came among us as one of us, who lived in a body like we do, who felt his legs get weak when he was stressed and worried. Jesus had an amygdala, the portion of his brain that dealt with fear and upset and worry. Our God knows what it's like to be worried, to be stressed. And we are surrounded by a community of people who are also in the same boat. However isolated we may feel, we are not alone. And that is one of the strong kernels of the gospel. We are not alone. There is power in this. And so you don't have to bear it alone. Cast your anxieties on God. There is a little wisdom to my doctor saying, have you tried prayer and meditation? Like there are times that we can take these things that are laying on our hearts and minds and hand them off to God. God also gives us a whole bunch of people around us. I mean, hopefully every single one of us has at least one person that we can call up or sit down with and say, hey, let me tell you what's going on. God gives us those people to use them. God also gives us the gift of therapists, and psychologists, and psychiatrists, and a whole host of people in the helping professions to help get us through this. This congregation has a whole flock of people who are therapists and helpers. They may or may not see you themselves, but they will absolutely be a resource for you to find who you need to sit down and talk with. We are not alone ever. It's really easy to feel that on the days that are good and the days that are great and the days that we're celebrating. It is harder when the clouds roll in. It is harder when the earth shakes and moves underneath of our feet. But those are the moments we need to remind ourselves even more. We are not alone. Cast all your anxieties on God, for he cares for you.